You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.
So no. That's what my 3-year-old little nephew is learning these days. That's his vocabulary. It's all about no. And I'm trying to tell him, like, it's supposed to be yes. So
I love that. Yeah,
we're jumping in. So, good morning, everyone. Katerina Cozias here. You're back watching LA40. And I am so excited today because, actually, I'm going to give it a minute. I'm going to give it a minute before the introduction because not only are we here live at LA Talk Radio in Los Angeles, but we are also Facebook Living. So I'm going to give it just a minute for some Facebook Live streamers to come join us.
Oh, awesome.
So thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for pushing that envelope, right?
Absolutely.
And thank you for, allowing us to say yes to creativity, yes to some cool things. If you are tuning in via Facebook, let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're tuning in from. It's funny because we're actually just pushing this through the LA Talk Radio feed and my personal feed. But I've been very selective with my Facebooking. I've kept it very private. So I think anyone watching me from Facebook now is a close personal friend. So hey. But now let's time to get started. We're talking about whether or not you are coming to the table and yesing your life. Are you showing up for life? And I'm so excited to introduce and have in studio with us today the Yes Coach, Cathy Alessandra.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. It's all about yes, I can.
Yes, I can. So, Cathy, we're coming off of an episode that we had a few weeks back. And for those of you tuning in, you know that on LA40, we're sort of tackling this turning 40, getting into your 40s, getting into your 50s. Where's Gen X playing these days? And how is Gen X showing up and coming to the table? And again, for those of you wondering, I think it was... one of the Wikipedia or something classified it officially as anyone that's currently between the ages of 38 and 52.
Oh, I just make it.
Yeah, right. If you're 52 and a half, you're considered a bit like baby boomer. But if you're still 52-ish in that year, Gen X, right? And there's a lot that happens in your 40s and your 50s.
There certainly is, right? Lots of change.
Absolutely, lots of change. So you are, Cathy, a best-selling author. Mm-hmm. You are also an entrepreneur of 20 years.
Yep.
And your story is really interesting. I want you guys to stay tuned in for Cathy's story because it's been a really interesting ride, where she came from, how she moved, and where she's at now. Sprinkled in with a little bit of real-life shit that happens. That she knows a lot about. We're going to delve into some addiction. We're going to delve into childing and parenting. But we're also going to delve into the fact that 58% of people out there right now do not like their jobs. And I actually thought that was a little bit low because most people I talk to are kind of running around miserable. And I'm thinking, no, life is supposed to be fun. Like, it has to be more than just us being born, paying bills, and then dying, right?
Absolutely. Life is short.
We've
got to take those opportunities and the things that come up, for us. It's funny, I had a couple years ago, my daughter was considering which college she was going to go and what major, and she was talking about her passion is theater. Oh. And I was like, oh gosh, money, blah, 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 right? And then my girlfriend says to me, you're constantly preaching passion, follow your passion. How can you tell her differently? Hello. It is. It's all about following our passion.
Yeah, I know, but that's easier said than done when, as a parent, your concern is she going to be flipping burgers because she got a degree in theater?
Right. She's not.
Right, there you go. So did she go down that path?
She did. She absolutely went down that path. In fact, she just moved to Dallas, and she's got a job at a theater, and she is following. She's working it. It takes perseverance. In fact, we talked last night about her perseverance, her level of resilience, and what she wants to do by following her passion.
Right. Yeah. No, passion's a big thing. We talked about that a little bit last year. The thing is that again, one of the blocks that people have is they start feeding themselves, I find, and I fell into this, and I know people in their 40s and 50s are falling into this, the self-limiting belief of, it's too late, I'm too old, I can't do it yet. But I did a little research that I want to share with you listening at home. So the average successful startup, the founder starts at 40. So 40, 41, you see these, 22-year-old millennial that hits it big with a new app. But it's usually people that have 20 years experience in some capacity that are now ready to come to the table and say, okay, I'm in this job. I've got 20 years to go. I don't really want to do it for another 20 years. I have something I think I can contribute to society, whether it's a service, whether it's, something that I'm building, something that I'm selling. And people over 40 with thriving businesses. Listen to this one. Okay, so Chip Wilson. Anyone know Chip Wilson? The founder of Lululemon, started at 42. All right. Anyone that does yoga has those pants, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Bob Parsons. These are not names we know, but as soon as I tell you the company he founded, GoDaddy, Bob Parsons founded GoDaddy at 47 years old.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
And look at GoDaddy. None of us can get anything without,
Yeah.
And then they throw in those extra fees, if you don't want people to stalk you once you get a domain name, pay us another $7.
Exactly.
And then one time I didn't do that, and then I got all these crazy SEO in India web guys,
right?
And I'm going,
absolutely.
why didn't I just pay the $7? Vera Wang, another one, big one. Ladies, we know Vera Wang, right? Fashion empire. She started to branch out on her own. Wedding dresses, the whole Vera Wang line at 40. She is now worth $400 million.
Whoa,
so if you have something in the back of your head that you want to start, you want to tune in with Cathy because we're going to walk you through how to go about doing that. But first, Cathy, tell us a little bit about your book, Yes, I Can.
Okay, so, my book is all about the mindset, the mantra, and motivation for success. I had kind of that aha moment myself back in, 2013 to 2015 with some challenges I was facing. And realized that I needed to step up and say yes to myself. And as selfish as that can sound at times, it's really all about saying yes to you, because if you're not taking care of you, right, if you're not able to say yes to you, what else can you really step up and say yes to if this isn't?
So in your particular capacity in your life, what did you need to step into that had you thinking it's time to yes myself?
Okay, well...
take us back a little bit. Give us a quick 101 of who's Cathy.
Okay, who am I?
Who's Cathy?
Who do I want to be when I grow up? Okay, so I actually became an entrepreneur a number of years ago. I worked in corporate. I was in sales and customer service, had kids, and we decided I could be a stay-at-home mom. But found that I still had that desire to do something. And I started my first magazine out of my own need. It was called What's Up for Kids. Still exists here in LA, and with all kinds of things for families to do. And then as time went on, and that magazine grew from a little copied piece of colored paper to full-color glossy magazine.
You were sitting in your living room with the glue stick, right?
I'm telling you, there are pictures of that.
Amazing.
I'd throw the kids in the car and we'd drive them to the preschools. But back in 2011, started my magazine, Today's Innovative Woman, which was for women entrepreneurs, all kinds of tips and tools and resources.
There you go.
And then the end of 2015, had enough of those monthly deadlines and all of that, and sold both of them to new publishers who continue the magazine.
It's always nice when you can build something and then sell it, right? That's the end goal. Cathy, before I let you continue, want to invite our viewers to dial in, because this is a dial-in show. We love to chat with you. So if you want to be part of this conversation as it unfolds, please call in to 818-570-5085. 818-570-5085. So you were a mom, you decided to start some magazines. The entrepreneurial one is interesting. Talk to me about a little bit about that.
It was geared, or it is currently even still geared
towards... Is it still being published?
It is, under a different name.
Okay.
Yeah, different name, different branding, but still the same idea, where it's for women entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business and take it to that next level. So, an important piece. Women entrepreneurs, I think, they sometimes question whether they have the skills, whether they're good enough, worthy. It's all that value piece, right? It plays in our head. Yeah.
And I think women have it a little bit worse, just because society expects more from women, physically, mentally. We have a caller. Fantastic. Thanks for calling in. Here we go. Hang tight, Cathy. All right. LA Talk Radio, you're dialing in. Who's this? Hello? Nope. We lost him. All right, well, good try. Now we're getting prank callers. I love it. I love it. But no, I had read a stat, and I wish I had written it down, but I think they were saying that into 2020, 68% of new businesses are going to be women-owned and operated. So women are coming into their own.
Absolutely.
As we get later into this century.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a staggering number of women-owned businesses.
Now, why do you think that is?
You know what? I think as we get older, as we're moving forward, we're realizing that we don't necessarily want to be in that corporate environment, right? I mean, being able to have the freedom and the flexibility, be able to create something. You know, I mean, my business is definitely actually always has been very passionate driven. What I'm doing, who I'm serving, is something that's really important to me. And so being able to create that on my terms makes a difference.
And the thing is, too, that I find, and again, you know, especially with women, but a lot of men do this, too, is you end up saying yes to everyone else, right? You're yesing to your husband, you're yesing to your boss, you're yesing to your kids, and you wake up, and it sort of happens, you know, at this place, 40, 45, 50, where you're looking around going, what happened to my yeses, right? What happened to my dreams? What happened to my goals? What happened to my money? And I think it sort of kicks some people in the butt.
It does. It does. And that's absolutely where I got to, right?
Okay.
I think as a woman, we do say yes to everybody else. We're the taxi driver, the caregiver, the cook, the maid, the plethora of things.
The porn star or whatever it is, right? Like you have to come to the table.
I wasn't
and
one
show
of those,
up.
but okay. But exactly. And so we get to a point where we start questioning, when is it our time, or when are can we step up into what we're really meant to be doing?
Right.
And that's why I talk about people saying yes to yourself. It's not necessarily that selfish yes, right? It's actually being able to step into and do what you want. And when we are filled up and we're serving who we're wanting to and who we're needing to, then we can show up for everybody else in our lives in a much bigger, better way.
Right. So you sold the magazines. What year was this?
That was the end of 2015.
Okay. And then what?
Well, that was right about the time I had started doing my life coaching. Okay. So I'd written the book, Yes, I Can. The book was coming out, and that is a pretty big personal reveal in a number of areas in my life. I was struggling with one of my children who was abusing some drugs. I was questioning my value and my worth because I don't have a college degree, and even though the business was quite successful. Struggling in my marriage, which is now over. And I had also taken all those feelings of guilt, shame, fear, doubt, and stuffed them down my throat and had put on a lot of weight.
Right.
So lost 75 pounds during that period.
You lost 75 pounds. Wow. Now, was that due to stress, or was that because you wanted to start getting fit?
No, it was when I said yes to myself, when I made the change, the yes I can moment, that I needed to take care of me, that I needed to focus on me and drop the expectations of everybody else. I was able to.
Well, you know what happens a lot of times is we get stuck in that that narrative, like you said, which, you know, is feeding some of these feelings that if you're not taking a minute to consciously allow them to come out and address them,
absolutely,
then you're just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. Although sometimes they say that you need to crash to kind of resurrect and come back up, and the people that aren't crashing aren't stretching.
I would agree with you that 100%. There were definitely dark days on my couch that I'd never wanted to, get out from under the covers or pull the blanket over my head and think, yeah, no.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. that was part of the theme of last week.
Right, but we can't get stuck there. Right. We have to keep
moving. So because it's funny, because I had a number, like a real huge number of people that reached out to me after last week's show. We were talking a little bit about that, sort of, mini breakdowns of what do you do. And they were like, you know what, this is happening to me. A friend of mine 42, another friend of mine 45, another friend of mine 38, and I just, or not even friends, but some people randomly on Instagram. And I thought, this, it happens. And when it happens, how do we push through it? What's your advice to someone right now who may be finding themselves in a place where their energy level for their own life is low? How do you turn that around?
Well, there's 3 pillars of Yes, I Can. And these were really the 3 things that I lived by and that I had to embody to really kind of move forward and get out of that stuck place. Okay. Self-care, sacred space, and support.
Okay, extrapolate.
Yes. So self-care is everything from taking care of you and maybe going and getting the mani-pedi or the spa or whatever. But it's also that self-care piece of maybe setting up some sort of journaling time in the morning or meditation time or prayer, whatever that is for you, right? Making time for yourself.
Which sounds great. Making time for yourself sounds great. If you don't have 3 kids under the age of 7 that you're trying to get fed and dressed and onto the bus. So, again, in theory, because I have time. I don't have the kids yet, so I sit and journal with my tea every morning. I'm a very happy person because of my journaling. But for moms that may not have that time, can they do it? In a different part of the day, maybe?
Oh, absolutely.
Lock themselves in the bathroom at night?
Absolutely,
Right.
right. We can get up 10 minutes earlier,
Right.
we can do it before we go to bed after the kids have gone to sleep, right? Before we, crawl in bed and make that time for yourself right at the end of the day. Or you lock yourself in the bathroom. That I've been known to do that in my younger days. Or when they go to school or preschool. But it's a matter of really making you a priority. Even if you can eke out 5 minutes, to just go. I mean, we live so close here to the beach. We're lucky, I just go and I can pull next to the beach and just sit there for 3 or 4 minutes.
Just look and decompress.
How about just stopping and taking a deep breath? Right? I mean, self-care is really just, it's being aware of you and where you're at and how you're feeling, and being willing to step out of that chaos that's running by you for a moment.
And if you're watching and you're tuning in, we're talking about yesing your own life. And if you have maybe your own ideas or your own sort of mini routine that you do that allows you some yes time, let me know. I have a girlfriend of mine who, rain, shine, sunny, raining, whatever, she makes a point of going on her half an hour morning walk every morning. Now, she's up in Canada, so half an hour morning in January is darn cold, and it's dark, and it's not fun.
Yes, it is.
But she says, that's my me time, and I'll just put on a few more layers, but that's my me time, and that's how I start my day. And it's 6 a.m. before the kids are even up, right? Husband's at home, and she's like, I'll be back. And she says it has saved her.
Yeah.
Just that time to self.
Right, absolutely. It's a critical piece.
Right.
It really is. Even if it's while you're sitting waiting for them to come out of karate lessons.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
So that's step number 1.
That's step 1.
Number
two is sacred space.
Sacred space.
So
what
what
does
I
that
mean
mean,
with this is creating some space around you, whether it is someplace special in your home, whether it's someplace you go, whether even for work, whatever that space is, so that you have a place to kind of go and retreat. Maybe it's the bathroom with the door closed. It's not a bad place, but it's really creating that space around you. And the third one is support. And I tell you, it's hard, especially when you're stuck and you're frustrated and you feel like you're going nowhere. Sometimes it's really hard, particularly for women, to reach out for that support. But if I didn't have the support in my life, I would not be where I am today. And that means, picking up the phone. It means maybe texting somebody. It means finding, maybe a business coach if you're, stuck in that area of your life. Or maybe it's seeking some therapy if it's your personal. Or maybe it's that best friend, somebody in that inner circle that you can really confide in and let down and let go.
And I think sometimes, too often we think of support as needing it when you're down. But I also find that support actually amplifies when I'm up. And I can share the up moments with people, and then they're really rah-rahing me, right?
Yeah. Well, you need to celebrate. I mean, last night my second book came out this week.
So you had a second book launch this
week? I did.
Woo!
Yes, I did. Woo-hoo.
What's the title?
Whose Addiction Is It Anyway?
Oh, and we're going to talk about that.
Mother's journey of taking control and letting go. But we had a celebration party last night, book launch party, and I invited those who had been on the journey with me. It was all about celebrating a very dark time, but you're on the other end, right? So absolutely, celebration with that support is an important piece.
Huge, yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to, I'm just trying to think of whether or not I want to go there yet. Because it's going to change the narrative a little bit, and I want to make sure that we're addressing some of this. I'm going to go here first, and then we'll go back to your book launch. So you're life coaching now, and you're sharing your wisdom, and that's great. I have to be really honest, though, because I'm trying to figure out if this whole life coaching thing, to me, it's still a little woo-woo. And I say that because, I spent 7 years on the East Coast, and I'm still kind of bi-coastal. I go back and forth. And the prevalence of life coaching and meditation and spirituality and this notion of taking time for yourself is so different than it is on the East Coast. It's there. I'm not saying people out there don't do it, but there's a real shift. And I'm wondering, for those of you that may have read the book, The Power of Now, right? Eckhart Tolle, he says, not in the book, but he says, through some of his interviews, he was living in England at the time, and something was drawing him to the West Coast. He actually ended up moving from England to Vancouver, up to Canada. But he said there was an energy of sort of connection to the earth, connection to the planet that was pulling him to that side of the coast. I'm wondering how much of that we're feeling physically out here as a West Coaster.
Well,
how much of it is woo-woo to you?
Well, I was born and raised in LA.
Okay, so you're pretty woo-woo.
Yeah, I'm pretty woo-woo. I lived in the Midwest and overseas for 8 years, but yes, I'm definitely a West Coaster.
Sure.
And life coaching is something that many people are just hanging a shingle on their door and saying I'm a life coach.
Right.
And I have done the certification. So I have, there's a International Coach Federation. I've gone through all that because I thought that was important.
Right, to just have that credibility.
Absolutely, absolutely have the credibility. Not to mention the 20 plus years as an entrepreneur, and I do business and life coaching because I do feel that it all plays together, right? I talk to my clients about there being this life wheel, and there's all those things that encompass our life: business, leadership, volunteer, family, friends, and overall
now, the
life.
thing is, and again, we're busy, right? It's 2017. We're busy, and 3 kids, got to get them to school before the bus leaves. How do you make time to balance the career and the family and the relationship and the health and the weight? I mean, it's exhausting, right?
It is exhausting.
What advice do you have to people in terms of helping them to prioritize what should be important?
Well, I think some of that is starting with where your values are.
Okay.
There's a great values exercise that I give my clients. In fact, I'm happy to give it to any of your listeners. It's something that really helps you kind of figure out where your values lie and then align, and then I make all my decisions based off that. My top 3 values are faith, family, freedom, and making a difference.
Those are your personal ones.
Those are my personal
Say them
values.
Again?
Faith, family, freedom, and making a difference. So when I'm looking at making decisions about where I'm going to spend my time and what I'm going to do, those are the things that I look at.
Should people be that consciously identifying their value system?
Well, I think if you want to be able to live a happy, fulfilled, balanced life, I think it's something you definitely need to look at.
Right.
Absolutely. I talk a lot in my conversations about commitments versus obligations. And that's really something that you can take a close look at when you're feeling that complete out of balanceness, right? What are the things that you're committed to, like from your heart and soul and alignment, everything that you want to commit to? And what are those things that are obligations that you're doing because somebody else expects you to do it? Right? And those are the things that you need to learn to say no to.
Right.
So that you can fully say yes to those commitments, but no to the obligations.
But it's the obligations that keep us feeling stuck, I think, because, again, there are so many people that feel like I have to do this, I should do that, I should show up for this. Is it not selfish to stop?
Well, that's really going to be all, again, where you are within yourself. It's funny, I had a conversation with somebody last night about something that's coming up this weekend, and she's like, I've learned to just say no to those events. And I said, yeah, you're right. I probably should have said no to this event. But
it was your own event.
Well, no, it's somebody else's thing. But still, right, it's what am I committed to? What am I? Yes, obviously, we all have obligations that we have to show up for. Everything from family obligations to work obligations. But if we're saying enough in those things that we're committed to,
right,
then the obligations don't feel quite so painfully uncomfortable and right? I mean, if we're living a life where we're committed to what we're volunteering for example, and you're finding fulfillment and happiness and joy in what you're doing with that, then maybe the commitment part about having to go to work for something may not be quite as painful.
Right. If you're just tuning in, we have the Yes Coach, Cathy Alessandra, here with us today, and we're talking about yesing your own life and showing up for it. How do you feel? So between 2015 and 2017 now, it's been a couple of years that you've been doing the life coaching. You had a couple of books that have come out. You have your seminars. You have your webinars. How do you feel in terms of your own personal fulfillment having moved down this path?
I'm at a great place.
Okay.
But there was lots of steps and darkness that I had to move through to be able to get to where I am now, right? It's not all sunshine and roses and unicorns and fairies. As some people may think when they see me on Facebook or they watch something that's going on, unless they've really delved into my books or they've really watched the personal journey. And I try to be very transparent about that on my social media feed, that there are challenges with life and that all of us are facing a challenge. Every single person out there, no matter what they are saying or doing, they have got some sort of challenge in their life. And it's how we view that challenge and move through it, whether we're going to have that resilience and that persistence to continue on, or whether we're going to get into that woe is me and compare ourselves and not move forward because, what's there. But it's the other piece, too, that I just want to say, it's strategic yeses and abundant no's.
Explain that.
Well, we need to learn how to say no. And I know women particularly have a really hard time saying no.
Well, yes, because we were all taught to sit pretty and say yes.
Yes.
Right?
No.
No,
right. We have to get comfortable with saying no. And again, that kind of goes back to the commitments versus obligations.
Right.
But as soon as we can become comfortable saying no in our own power and saying yes to those things that really matter to us.
And I think the difference is that you don't have to say no in a way that you're being bitchy or you're
Absolutely not.
Not respectful of someone else's request.
Correct.
But you are being respectful of your own needs and back to the values that you were talking about.
Right, absolutely. No is also a complete sentence. We don't have to give an explanation.
There you go.
It's a tough one. I know.
No, but that's a good point. That's a good point, Cathy, because a lot of times you want to say no, and then you're thinking of all the excuses and reasons how you can get out of what you want to get out of, and you're right. It's just no.
No, thank you. It's probably a little more polite, but right, yeah.
So. Deep diving into addiction.
Yes.
Your son was addicted.
Yes,
talk to me a little bit about that, because we have a lot of parents that do listen, and it's a tough time to be raising kids. Marijuana is being legalized here in the state. We'll talk about that in a minute, but take me back a little bit, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So back a few years.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
I have 2 girls and a boy, and my son is the baby, although he is turning 21 this weekend, so he's no longer the baby. But anyway, it was a time when he started abusing drugs. And I found out kind of haphazardly, and it took me down a path.
How old was he?
He was about 15 when I first found out.
Tough age.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And I spent my ex-husband and I, about 2.5 years or so down that spiral drain of trying to save him. And that was where my addiction came in. I became addicted to trying to save him. And, watching his social media and monitoring the car and, all those things, trying to keep him from...
Now, was he doing cocaine? Was he doing
no
ecstasy? Was he doing
No,
weed?
Actually, I was weed, actually. I'm very, in the grand scheme
because
of
that's,
things...
again, society is opening that up.
Don't even get me started.
There you go.
It's a tough one. You know what? I think part of that is going to be dependent upon, somebody's... it's obviously, genetics play into it, circumstances...
What are your thoughts around genetics and addiction?
Well, I think it definitely plays a piece.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Did you have addiction in your family history, or your husband's?
Yes, there is some addiction that goes back there. I think it was also a time in my son's life where self-esteem and self-confidence was an issue. And so that was
a tough age.
It is. It is.
Everyone's
a really
just
age.
Looking gawkily weird at 15. Right? You're either too tall, or you're too fat, or you're not developed, or you're too developed.
Well, and he had 2 sisters who were, rock star students and very involved, right? So there's that shadow. I mean, I've never really gotten into the deep things with him about, why.
How old is he now?
He'll be 21 this weekend.
Okay. Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Legal.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
Now we got to worry about another addiction.
No, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about him anymore. Okay. It was, for him, it was, he's doing great. But until I got to that place where I realized that I needed to let go, and for me, let God kind of take control, that I needed to curb my expectations on what it was going to be for him. And in reality, what that did was that opened the door for him to ask for help.
How do you even, did you have an intervention? Did you let him know that you knew? I mean, how?
Oh, he knew we knew. boy, did he know. Yeah, we had a couple. Yes, I mean,
because I got to take it back a minute, because you hear these stories and you think, oh well, the parents are at fault, right? They probably didn't care.
Yes.
They probably didn't know. They probably didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It sounds like you and your husband were very active, and yet you still couldn't contain him.
No. And I think the hard part for me in the beginning part was that, I had these 2 older daughters who weren't in that realm, I mean, they were stellar students, they were involved in all kinds of activities. And then when this started happening with my son, it was kind of out of the blue. And the guilt and the shame for me that went along with that because of the other parents. Oh, well, my child would never do that. And I'm sorry, your child at least knows about it and might have, but it's that stigma associated with addiction.
Right? Yeah, and being a bad mother, right?
Right, exactly. And I made it all about me at that point.
Wow.
Right? What kind of mother am I? And the reality is it was all about him.
But how do you make that distinction, right? Wow.
Many days crying, many days, right? And getting some professional help for him and for me to be able to walk through that and see that. And then it was in a moment of desperation where I realized I didn't have control of the situation and it wasn't about me, and I needed to let him take his own journey. And that he did, and I think I pray, has made him stronger for it because of that.
Right. And so did he naturally just get to a point where he was ready to, like you said, ask for help? Did he just come into the room one day? How did that happen? Because, again, this is now a couple of years, 15-year-old kid, 16, 17, his whole high school life. Yeah. Somewhere in the back of his head, he knew he was doing something that he shouldn't be doing.
Right, right, absolutely, and was escaping. And I think it did, actually in his senior year, January of his senior year, was when he asked for help. And so it had been weed, and then it had gone a little further with Xanax, and then there was a winter formal. And from all I can gather from that, there was something that happened that night that kind of sent him, I think, into that place of realizing that he needed some help and asked for it. And so he left high school, although the high school worked with us. Okay. So he was able to graduate and everything.
So did he go into a rehab center or just started working from home? Or
no, he went into sober living. Okay. He went into sober living.
Right.
And
which is what?
Sober living is, it's a home that usually it's all men or all women. Okay. And it's an environment where, no drugs are allowed. They're drug tested when they come back. They typically are getting some support, therapeutic support. They tend to help them find a job. They're taking them to AA meetings. There's all of that. So
he was a support system there.
Absolutely.
Right? How long was he there?
He was there 4 months.
Okay, yeah. Because I get it. You hear some of these, especially in Hollywood, right? These stars that go in for 30 days, and I'm thinking, how do they expect to change behavior that's been a habit for years in 30 days? Right. So, I'm glad to hear that he was there for a substantial amount of time.
Well, and I think the other piece of that is it's not just about the person who's abusing drugs or alcohol going in, but it's also about the family members and those around them getting help at the same time. Because there needs to be a shift in that environment that they're going to come back to. You can't just send them away and think they got to do all the work and it's all going to be better. Right. There's something in that environment that is also exacerbating things. So is it the way that you're talking to them? Is it the relationship you have? Is it the enabling or codependency going on there? Which it was for me.
Right, and it's the codependency. You have those conversations. Were you having group family therapy, or were you folks going in one at a time?
We did have a couple of sessions together, and I was actually doing some therapy at the same time to kind of work through it. And then there was just a different way of dealing with him.
Now, I want to know, because, I haven't been around a lot of this, but for parents that may be looking for some signs, what are some of the signs? Like, was he stealing from you? Was money missing? Was he not coming home on time?
Yeah.
I mean, other than smelling the marijuana on his shirt.
Well, it's funny
clue
because
number one.
You would have thought, right? And it caught me completely off guard. I had actually gone on to a computer to pull something up, and his Facebook was still up. And so I wasn't even looking for it. And it happened to pop up these Facebook messages that he was having with somebody and had been going on for about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of blindsided me, in all honesty. There were probably signs that I missed on the early stages of it, but yes, I think with the eyes, the smell, but then just the being gone all the time and the excuses. No, I never had an issue with him stealing money or that kind of thing. But I think the abuse did get to a point where it changed him as a young man. He had a lot of anger and frustration, and then because I was feeding into that with trying to
you were coming
fix
to the table probably reflecting anger and shame and
Oh, absolutely. I fully own that.
Yeah.
I fully own that.
Well, I like what you had said earlier about, you became addicted to helping him. How do you release him into his own journey? You mentioned that a little bit earlier. How, as a mom, do you say, I've done everything I can do and perhaps I'm exasperating the situation? How hard was that to take a step back and just...
It is.
what do you do?
It is
Wow.
really, really hard, and especially when you're talking about somebody who's under 18 years old. Right. And people look at me sometimes cross-eyed, like, how can you do that? Well, I mean, there's things that you need to put in place as far as boundaries, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not. When you come together as a family, what you will allow, what will happen, and then at that point you have to kind of release it. And there's consequences to the actions. And I think having those consequences in place and following through with them, and we did not do a very good job in the very beginning of that.
But the thing is, we never do a good job in the beginning of anything. And and this takes me to another part of the conversation. First of all, I'm glad that your son recovered.
Yes,
I'm glad that he's doing well. And happy birthday to him.
Yes, happy birthday.
Yeah, that's
Chris.
a big one. But reflecting on, walking into something that you don't know how to do. Right? People are afraid to say yes to their life because they think, well, I want to do this, but I can't. Right? I want to start a food truck. Maybe you're 45 years old and you really just want to move out of that, place that you've been in, and you want to start a food truck. You don't know how, you don't know where to go. And so that lack of knowing prevents you from moving forward. But if you think about it, anyone that did anything didn't know how to do it. Otherwise, so we have to get over that fear, I think, of, do you want to create your own yoga studio? And it's not going to happen today, but go talk to some people that own a yoga studio. Go see what you might need in terms of financial backing, and there's baby steps that we can do daily to kind of move things forward.
Absolutely. I think when we look at our big lifelong goals and visions and where we want to be, I know for me even, I kind of took a look at even just, I'm 52 now, so looking at 60, right? Where do I want to be when I look back? Okay, so what does that mean in the next 3 years? What does that mean this year? What does that mean today that I need to be doing? And even if it's that teeny tiny baby step, what is that little thing that I can be doing towards that goal? And frankly, if we're accomplishing them too quickly, we're not setting big enough stretch goals.
Right. I mean, no, it's so true. And I think the thing that also prevents people from moving forward, what I've found is, people look at life and they say, okay, I have 12 months, till next summer, and I want to accomplish this. But 12 months is such a small amount of time, and so it becomes overwhelming.
Right.
So what I, talk to people about is I tell them, like, look at where you want to be 3 years from now. 3 years from now is a long time. And if you structure some things in place, you can really move to somewhere 3 years from now.
Absolutely.
12 months is going to come around the corner. I mean, I don't know how the heck it's already September.
Right, I know. Where did this year go?
Yeah. In your book, Yes, I Can, you talk about the 3 pillars to being fully present in your own life. I have my cheat sheets here for those of you watching us. That's all right. 3 pillars to being fully present in your own life. How can people be fully present? What are those 3 pillars?
Well, the 3 pillars are what I talked about before.
Okay, they are. Okay,
so
fabulous.
Self-care,
so say them again. Yep.
Self-care, sacred space, and support.
Perfect.
I do talk about the 4 pieces also, and they are being big, being bold, being bright, which is all about resilience, and then showing up as you. Really being you. Does
society allow us to show up as us, though, especially in this world of Photoshop and
Well, I think some of that
pretty billboards, and everyone's a size 2.
Right. That is very true. Well, I'm not a size 2, and in fact, I was a size 20 when I started.
Big congrats on the 75 pounds.
Thank you.
God, that's a whole other show.
Yeah, right. But it's about that self-confidence and that self-worth and that self-value, and showing up as you. And it's not easy to do. It's something that we practice. I practice it daily.
How? How do you practice showing up as you?
Getting uncomfortable. Showing up on your show. Right? Putting the book out there this week. Right. All those various things. And there's going to be people who don't like it, and there's going to be people who are going to be haters and complainers and all. But those people who do resonate with my story and what I'm trying to share and who I'm trying to serve and support, those are the people that I'm meant to be friends with and surround myself with and are part of my life. And those are the people that are still in my life.
Yeah, and it's, taking our life seriously, because I think it goes by so quickly.
It does.
Why do you think society, we allow ourselves to be dictated by what society expects? Why is there so much of that?
Well,
when does that start?
I think we want to be loved. We want to be valued. We want to be appreciated. And sometimes we don't feel that when other people are complaining or comparing us to something or putting us down. So
if you had to go back, would you have parented differently 10, 15 years ago?
That's a good question. Overall, no, I don't think so. I probably would have, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have responded to my son differently to begin with. If I could have been in a place where I am now to respond and not react.
Okay. I was going to say, explain the difference that you perceive between responding and reacting. The reaction was what?
The reaction was, I can have a temper, or I used to have a temper. I would be, I would
now
be
you do
on
yoga.
the ceiling, right? I would be on the ceiling. I was a yeller. There was a lot of,
and I'm assuming you probably, by reacting, you probably, made him feel like he was doing something wrong.
Absolutely. I exacerbated
Reprimanded
the situation.
him.
I absolutely exacerbated the situation. No doubt.
In terms of responding, how would you have responded versus reacted?
Well, I think it's taking a step back and kind of reviewing the situation as it's appearing before I even open my mouth.
Oh, wow. That's tough, though, right?
It
because
is.
we're trained to react.
Right.
How many people see a situation they don't like and say,
Absolutely.
I'm just going to take a day and go away and come back with a formulated reaction.
Oh, not a day, but it's But I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, there are days when I still fail at that.
Right.
I'm not perfect.
I think I failed at it in the car this morning. The guy beeped at me, and then I just beeped back.
Right? I mean, we all do. But if I'm not, but what I am is I am aware of it.
Okay.
So I may have to pick up the phone and apologize, or say something to somebody as it comes off, or then question what was it that set me off that I reacted that way. But really being more aware of it so that I can, even through a divorce, right? Really trying to live with that grace piece and respond and not react. And believe me, there's ways that,
You were married for how many years?
It would have been 30 years.
30 years. How do you walk away or decide to move out of a 30-year marriage? Because I know there's a lot of people listening thinking, I don't know if I can do it.
It's not something to be taken lightly. It's there was a lot of years that we worked on it, and it was a mutual decision. So I'm very lucky and very blessed that it's not something
amicable.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's not an ugly. Yeah.
Do you believe in that fairy tale? We're going to die holding hands in bed together.
Gosh, I hope so. Yes, I do firmly believe that.
Are you looking for love now?
Well, I'm just coming out of,
a 30-year marriage.
Right, yeah, okay. Yes. But
you have potentially a 50-year life ahead of you.
Right.
52 is so young still.
Right. No, I do. I do hope that there'll be a mutually committed relationship in the future.
Sure, absolutely. And whether you want that or not, it doesn't have to be, but I think it would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be able to share my life with someone, but I'm also okay.
Right.
I am okay. I'm enough.
What is the biggest block you see for people that are wanting to move forward, starting to yes more of their life, but just seem stuck? So as we wrap up here.
I think the biggest block is the fear, the fear factor. I think many of us...
what are they fearful of?
Failure, risk, losing money, lots of different things, right?
Society's judgment.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's hard to take a step off that cliff if you're not sure, where the next level down is going to be, right? And I'm not saying jump off a cliff by any stretch of the imagination, but we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable in what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I think we also have to put it in perspective sometimes. I was watching CNN last night, and horrific scenes of this elementary school that had collapsed because of that earthquake.
Right.
And I just thought, imagine these parents that sent their 5 and their 6-year-old to school in the morning and the entire building collapsed. And I just thought, we sit here sometimes and we're negative and we're negating the superficiality of the things that we want that we don't have. And then something that like this just puts it into perspective. So I think, again, without sounding woo-woo myself, take a minute and be grateful for what you have.
Absolutely.
Because
every single
we really
moment.
are lucky to be sitting here looking pretty at our little show and get in our cars and go back. The reality for some people today is very, very different.
Absolutely.
But yes, I can. Cathy, where can people find your book?
Well, they can find it over.
Well, you've got 2, so tell us the title of both.
They're on Amazon, both of them.
Okay.
The first one is called Yes, I Can, The Mindset, Mantra, and Motivation for Success. And the book that just launched this week is called Whose Addiction Is It Anyway? A Mother's Journey of Taking Control and Letting Go.
Amazing. Fantastic. And if people would like to tune in for some of your coaching seminars, if they're local here to LA, where can they find you?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, CathyAlessandra.com.
Cathy Alessandra, spelled like that?
Yep. Yeah, you can find my programs. I've got an event coming up in December, all kinds of networking opportunities.
Perfect.
And I would love to
How
hear from
excited are
anybody.
you about your life coming up here, 2018? Are you
I-
yesing a lot?
I am absolutely yesing along. I am very excited. Lots of very fun stuff coming up
Yeah.
for me, and lots of great people that I'm meeting. And
Absolutely.
super fun.
Cool. Well, that was our show, basically just reminding you to step into the best version of you, I think. And
You bet.
how you want to go about doing that is going to be a little bit different for everybody. Kathy gave us some nice tools and things to consider, things to think about. And so maybe you can take that home with you over the next little while and see if you can be a little bit excited about your next steps. I'm Katerina. This was LA40. You are listening to LA Talk Radio. We are the top-ranked internet radio, is one of the top-ranked in the nation. So happy to be here. Every Thursday, we'll see you guys again.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.